on the left, but one of them would have been unthinkable until just a short time ago. Ronald Reagan is suddenly in vogue with liberals. Now, if only the 40th president was alive to hear their praise. Joining me now with more on this is Bill Bennett, who served as Secretary of Education under President Reagan. I worked for him, full disclosure, and is also a Fox News contributor, along with Craig Shirley, the author of 4 bestsellers on Ronald Reagan, including Reagan Rising. Great to see both of you. All right, Bill, I find this to be fascinating that we now have all these liberals coming out and saying, well, the Trump folks, and on any given number of issues, gosh, if only they were more like Reagan. Well, how do you process this today?
Yeah, well, it's kind of funny, isn't it? A rosy memory changing the way things were. I don't remember it being very pleasant back then, serving with Ronald Reagan, with the liberals, with the media. There's a line from Shakespeare, though, that says, you know, he's good being God. But one has to say, whatever criticisms came down during the Reagan era, and there were a lot of them, I got some, you derivatively got some, you were working for me, as you said. Ronald Reagan got plenty. It's nothing compared to what Donald Trump is getting. So if they can use Ronald Reagan to beat up Donald Trump, they will do it. And they can do it with a straight face. I don't know how they pull off the straight face.
Craig, you always remind us of this fact that the left will do anything to regain power, even invoking the political figure they thought was basically the enemy. I want to play some flashback sound from some of our favorites in the media. And I believe this was during the administration, right after the president, right after he passed away. Let's watch.
Did his vision include extraordinary deficits? Did his vision include cutting the budgets for education and back of the hand in terms of...
Are you saying morally history will not be kind to him?
I don't know. I don't think history particularly will be kind. I don't think history has any reason to be kind to him.
I used to say, I thought if you were down on your luck and you got through the Secret Service, got in the Oval Office, and Mr. President, I'm down on my luck, he would literally give you the shirt off his back. And then he'd sit down in his undershirt and he'd sign legislation throwing your kids off school lunch program, maybe your parents off Social Security.
He wanted grandma to eat Alpo. Remember that, guys? Craig?
Yeah, right,
This is unbelievable.
Yeah, and ketchup was a vegetable, too. Look, this is a pattern that plays itself out actually many times, Laura. You know, when Eisenhower was president, liberals derided him. They said Dwight Eisenhower couldn't read if his lips were chapped. Then he becomes a paragon of virtue. Barry Goldwater was attacked by psychiatrists and newspapers and denounced as crazy. Now he's held up by liberals as a paragon of virtue. The left hated Richard Nixon. I saw a liberal historian on MSNBC the other day actually favor Richard Nixon comparably to Donald Trump. Gerald Ford, both Bushes were all hated by the left until they were no longer in office. Then they become convenient tools to bash the current occupant of the White House. So it's nothing new, but it's especially infuriating with Reagan because they know nothing about the Reagan. As I said earlier to you this morning, Laura, I said they're in over their head. They don't know what they're talking about.
And we all worked for President Reagan, and we all know that on the issue, for instance, of immigration, a lot of Democrats are out there saying, well, the Republican Party, Donald Trump, they're getting, if only, again, they were more like Reagan on immigration. So let's play a few of the choice sound bites from President Reagan on immigration.
The simple truth is that we've lost control of our own borders, and no nation can do that and survive.
I've spoken of a shining city all my political life, but in my mind it was a tall, proud city built on rocks stronger than oceans, windswept, God-blessed, and teeming with people of all kinds living in harmony and peace. If there had to be city walls, the walls had doors, and the doors were open to anyone with the will and the heart to get here.
Bill, you can take a hit at that one. It's first of all, I get shivers every time I hear him speak. But talk about the city on the hill. The city had walls; it would have a door, and and so the left takes that part of the city on the hill. Anyone can come. See, Ronald Reagan wanted everyone to come, but then of course they forget the part about the wall and the part about the country without borders isn't a country.
Yeah, once again, he's good being gone. You know, it occurred to me while you were talking to Craig, maybe 2, 3, 4 elections in the future, we will see videotape of Donald Trump saying, the liberals saying, now those were the days when people had heart and soul. You know,
I don't think so.
Just a thought. Just a thought experiment here, Laura. You know, could it possibly? Can it be worse till it gets worse? You know, but no. This
Bill
is amazing.
might be
There's
absolutely
so
right.
much. Yeah, no, but there's so much the two share in common. I mean, you know, Craig was saying the other day, or maybe I read it in his book, this commitment to defense, to a defense buildup, which is so essential to both of them. The focus on a wall. Reagan wanted to tear one down, the right one, and Trump wants to build one up, and that's the right one too. But you know, they're very different personalities, and yet very much going in the same direction. Seems to be the thing. I think I'd be interested in Craig's opinion on this, having served in the cabinet and proudly for Ronald Reagan. I think this is a more conservative cabinet than Ronald Reagan had. Don't you,
Craig?
Yeah, I think so. But it's also, you know, don't forget, Bill, is that, you know, the bench, you know, you were a great conservative in the cabinet, and William French Smith, and of course Ed Meese, but the bench was a lot thinner. This is a byproduct of the Reagan presidency, is that there's a lot more talent now to be available for the Trump administration that wasn't available in 1980.
Yeah, and think about that. Think of all the people that were waiting in the wings to get appointed to the appellate courts. I mean, all those 50-something-year-olds, late 40s, they were children of the Reagan era, were they not, Bill? I mean, it changed. I mean, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. I mean, the left would probably love that if it weren't for Reagan. I mean, if it didn't work for you, I wouldn't be doing any of this.
No, the AAA and AA leagues very much highly populated then with the right people. I remember, Laura, at our place. Remember, we got known as Fort Reagan. At one point, we had 134 political appointees. And I remember Senator Weicker, who was supposed to be a Republican, said, "What are you doing with all these political appointees?" And I said, I think we're doing it right. You know, we won the election. And that was a great training camp. And it's interesting to see where a lot of those people have gone. Famous television personalities such as yourself.
Right. Well, Bill, they can blame you. They can blame you. All right, guys, thanks so much. And the so-called blue wave for Democrats may already be fizzling.